I thought I would make a little video today going through a bit of how I organize my planner and also some questions that have been asked about the printables that I have for sale. I get both of those types of questions quite often. So I use an A5 Filofax. This is the Malden in Ochre. And inside I'm using the 2004 color edition. And what you'll get with that is a bunch of PDFs, and by a bunch I mean a lot. And a common question that pops up quite often is what I print on them with. So for all the kind of cover pages for the different sections and for the tabs, I print those on a cardstock. And then for all the other pages, I just use a copy paper. So I'm just going to kind of go through my setup and relate back a bit if it's a question on printables. But so the first section I use is a personal section, and that's just the personal sheet of like your phone number and your address and all that. And then I use some of the lists. I use like the what you're watching list and a reading list. So, but again, I don't print out everything that is available in the planners because my binder actually wouldn't hold all of it. So I keep very few things in the personal section. But the meat and potatoes of my planner really starts with the monthly section, the at a glance section. So again, I have the title page printed out. And what the monthly calendar is, let me just flip to, actually I'm going to go to 2014 here. Okay, so this is January. Okay, so if you are using the 5.5 by 8.5, it's a little bit shorter than a typical Filofax insert if you're using a Filofax. So just keep that in mind. If you have some Filofax inserts, they're going to be a little bit taller than these. But this way you will get everything fitting on, I don't know if I hold them together, it's one sheet of copy paper, 8.5 by 11. And for the size for this planner, all you have to do is trim it in half. If you're buying the personal size, then there's going to be cut marks for you. So you will have some paper waste, but I mean, you have to. So, but for the 5.5 by 8.5 size, it's one sheet of paper sliced in half. So you're going to get all the 2014, and I like to print all mine out, and then that way I can work really far ahead. I have something down for November already, actually. So I like to do that. If some people like to print them out and have them with their normal everyday like week in review or daily sheets. So you would have like your January calendar, then you'd have all your January weeks pages, and then you do your February calendar. I like to have all my months together. So for that, then in the files you will find a folder labeled ordered. And what that means is if you printed things out in order, so if you would do like page 1 front, and then you flip your paper, and then you print page 1 back, and so on, you're going to get a planner that has things on either side and that you can print out to have all your months together. And so that's what I've done here. So you can print out your months individually and go Monday to Sunday, or you can print out the blank one, or however you want to do that. If you want them all together in a section, then you're going to want to print out the ordered ones. And those are just arranged properly so that you're going to not all of a sudden end up with like the wrong side of February on the back of here or stuff like that. So basically I go through and I add things to my months as I plan them. So if I all of a sudden have something planned for this weekend, I'm going to add it into my month section. And what I'm using for dividers is, well, I guess these would be my dividers for a little bookmark. For the main sections that I look at every day, I made some transparent bookmarks. So this is just a heavy transparent overlay. And I cut it just a bit longer at the bottom and a bit longer than that at the top, or taller than that. And I used some alphabet stickers and just labeled it. So I have what this one says this month. And so it's just easy for me to find the month that I'm doing, just like that. And you'll see I color code things. So some things are work, some colors are for kids and whatever. Another question I get asked a lot is my pens that I use. And I use the Pilot friction pen, and this is the black one, and they're erasable, so they're kind of awesome. Okay, so something new in the shop is the weekly blueprints. Now there is a right way to do this if you're going to go with the weekly blueprints. Now, you can either use them just for planning purposes and plan out your week and then transfer this information onto your normal everyday sheets, which is what I do now, or you can just use it as your weekly planner just all on its own. So I'm going to just take this apart or open the binder, and I'm just going to show you what this is. So now whether you're using the 5.5 by 8.5 or you're doing the personal size, they function in the same way, so it's no different. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to print out your page. Now if you have this size, you're going to have a full 8.5 by 11 sheet. And you're going to want to fold that in half. And that's what you're going to start with. If you're getting the personal size, you're going to trim it and then fold it in half. And then what you do is you're going to have a little sliver that you trim off just one side. Now the reason for that is this is a page that is pretty much interactive. So I'm just going to put this back in here. Now if you did not trim that edge off, you are going to have it hit into your rings, and you're either going to have to punch holes and leave a slit so you can pull it out, or you're just not going to be able to open your page, basically. So that is the idea. So your fold is going to be a little off center when you're finished. It's easiest to fold it in the beginning and then trim that strip off. And then again, the purpose of that is for you to punch your holes on the side that sticks past and not have that affect your fold at all. This is the only sheet that I have in the planner section that functions this way. So everything else is just simply cutting and trimming and punching your holes and putting it in. So now the purpose of this is to basically plan out your week. So I've printed out the calendar that goes Monday to Sunday. The other option was more of a family planner, and you have spots for each member of your family, and then you can plan like a whole family's week. I just needed one for myself, so I just printed out the plain one. So every Sunday night, what I do is I go through the coming week, usually by going back to my monthly calendar and seeing what's up, and I plan that out in here. And I do appointments, important dates, weekly to-do list. I have a spot for chores where I can check off which chores are getting done, projects, and then I also have a menu planner and a grocery list. And so this just folds up and yeah, is pretty interactive and plans out my week in a great way. So on Sunday nights I'll go through this and I'll fill it in, and then once this is done, I will fill it in on my normal today sheets. Now, the reason I do that is because, actually I will go to my next section and explain that a bit. This is my normal kind of everyday section. Now, I used to do print out the weekly pages. Now, the weekly pages come Monday to Sunday, Sunday to Saturday, and also blank. And then you can just print out however many you need, and you can just stamp the date in the banner beside. And that's the idea behind those. And that's what I typically used. Sometimes it was great, and sometimes my days got really, really full. This actually looks pretty good, but it got to the point where it was really, really full. And I needed to go to just a 1 page a day type layout. But I liked looking at my whole week at a glance. So if I was on a Tuesday, I could like immediately see kind of what was up this week and how to manage my time better. So I didn't want to miss that. So that was where this blueprint comes into play. So I do look at this weekly blueprint even after I'm done organizing my week. I maybe don't go to it every day, but every other day for sure. And I can kind of see the week at a glance still, the important things, but for my today lists and to-do lists, those kind of get tossed onto a daily planner. So here's an example of one of the daily planners. There's kind of family planners where it's a 2-page spread, and you'll have a section for your family members and columns with times for all of them, and you can organize all of them. This is kind of the single person's version. So I have just kind of to-do list type stuff on this side and times down this side. I've always tried to have a separate to-do list aside from like appointments and things, and that just never really worked for me. I kind of do it all in the same place. So I've gone to a 1-page planner, and then I also go back to that blueprint to kind of see the full week. But so that's what I'm using right now. So that and the diary section is just a little weekly kind of spot to write up, you know, funny things that somebody said or things that happened, things that I may want to include in like some kind of project or a project life type project, or things I want to remember anyway. So in my today's section, that's what you'll find. You'll find my daily lists, which are right now single days, and the diary. So after this, I have the new 2013 holiday planner. And so again, I have the cover printed with cardstock. And then all the other pages I just printed with copy paper. So what you'll find in the holiday planner is there's a whole section on if you do any kind of holiday album for the year, and that can be any format, but so there's a section for plan, inspiration and ideas, supplies, and then there's also individual spots for ideas for the days of the month. So it goes from December 1st to 31st, and you can kind of plan out your album that way. So there's that. And then there's also the typical, there's a gift list with little check marks if it's purchased, if it's wrapped. There's a card list, same idea. Decorating ideas, services, programs, craft ideas, holiday activities. So basically a whole bunch of organizers to help you organize December, because December is kind of insane as a rule. So yeah, so that is the holiday planner, and I have it behind my today planner, and at the end of December I'm going to take it out. So then I go from the home section. Now when I was just using the weekly planner pages before I moved to the daily ones, I had a lot in my home section with the blueprints. I have a menu planner and a grocery list right on it. So I've taken those sections out of here, and otherwise they had sat in my home section. So right now I just have some notes on renovation type stuff and some blank papers. So right now it's not a very busy section, but and after that I follow with our school section, and we homeschool 2 of our kids. So in this section I write down their schedule, and if it changes and whatnot, I just do that. I do a week at a time. And then I have a section for my daughter's public school schedule. And these I kind of cut so they fold as well. And then I can just kind of plan, you know, our homeschool with public school, and they kind of holidays jive and all that stuff. And then after that I have a social media section, and there you'll just find, I use the blog schedule section with the reminders, and I just color those in. And then I also have the topics and the ideas section, which I don't think I've really written in much, no. So that's all that sits in there. And you'll see that I don't, like, if you look back, I don't use a lot of, well, I don't use any decorative. I don't use washi, I don't use stickers, stuff like that. I always say that I'm going to one day, and I just never seem to get around to it. But so it's pretty plain, but it works. And then last I have the create section, and in here, other than some work things, I just use the project life pages. Now in the create section you'll also get sketches and project planners and all kinds of other pages. And like I said before, I don't use all the planners that are available in here, so you'll find a lot more than just what this is. But I use the Project Life planner with the grid on it, and I use this to plan out my Project Life spreads. So I'll record the week and the date, and then I go through my photos on the computer and I pop them into this grid and write down any memorabilia that goes with it, or any notes, like, you know, refer to, you know, the diary for that page, or whatever. But yeah, so that's just my planning those spreads, and that's what I have in the create section. So all in all, nothing fancy. My most used sections are absolutely the calendars and the daily planners, and that's the ones that have those clear tabs, because those ones I flip to every day. So like now, if something would come up for the weekend, I would write it down in the monthly calendar, and I would write it down in here, and then when that came time to planning that week, I would transfer that into here. And then during my day, I work off of this daily sheet. And yeah, that just works well for my brain, and may not work well for anyone else's. But what I do is I print a few at a time. I think I'm up to December 5th. So I print out maybe, you know, 15 days worth at a time or whatever, and stamp the dates on them, and plan ahead that way. And then for the weekly blueprint, I do the same. I've got 4 printed out, folded and ready. But yeah, so far this system is working well for me. Now that's not to say that, you know, next month it might be totally different, but I hope this gave you a little peek at how I organize it, and then also I hope it maybe answered some questions that some of you have had about the planners. And if it didn't, if you have a question, please leave it in the blog post that this video will live in, and I will try to answer it as soon as I can.